So while you were over in Starkville last week going to overtime, I was in Tuscaloosa at a game that did not need OT. By the way, let's picture this now. Picture standing in Bryant-Denny Stadium and you're looking around and it's emptying out midway through the fourth quarter. And you're thinking, oh, I saw that against Middle Tennessee State week 1. We've seen it many times. What you haven't seen is you haven't seen it cause the home team is getting beat by double digits. That's what was so crazy about that. So everyone's had their take on this week. I got to tell you what was pretty surreal. So earlier in the week, I kind of relayed some feedback I had got. I know it sounded like I was just coming off the cuff, but there are a lot of folks who think the Bama coaching staff below Nick Saban is not on par with some of the ones they've had in the past, which is easy to tell because the ones they've had in the past were like all-time staffs. So here's what was crazy. I got a ton of feedback on that. And overwhelmingly, people around the program agreed. And then Saban steps to the podium, Thursday? So last night he steps to the podium and he said, yeah, people have been calling me all week saying, hey, these guys are jerks for criticizing you. But I'm like, they're not wrong. We should be criticized, which was real funny. And I just took it upon myself to let everyone know he's probably talking about our show because that's the kind of guy I am. But you and I were big on this offensive line, and it was a rough performance for them the other night. No explosive plays on the ground, hardly. And the game plan, or maybe lack thereof, to feature Jalen Milroe, just a lot of stuff looked discombobulated. So I've spoken my piece on it. What are your thoughts about what is wrong with Bama, if you think there's something wrong with Bama?
I don't know if it's that there are a lot of things wrong. Let's also think about that this is a team that had the lead going into the fourth quarter, had multiple turnovers, was miserable on third down, and wasn't a very balanced football team throughout. There's a lot of other reasons that you could point to and say these also contributed to why they lost the game. The offensive line didn't play well. Texas has a really good D-line. You and I talked last week, 93 and 90 were going to be a problem. I didn't know if 95 was going to be that much of a problem as he was for that Texas front, but they were. Texas defense, a little bit of what we talked about earlier in the show. They look like they wanted it a little bit more. Texas's offensive line took it to that Alabama front seven. They've been almost a non-factor in 8 quarters of football against Steve Sarkisian. So for him to be able to remove those guys that have played on that Alabama front, that's a problem. It doesn't allow you to do the things that you need to do offensively. Motion-based matchup offense. That's what Sark runs. He utilized it and found the matchups that he wanted. He liked them. They took their shots. They got them. They won. That's a play right there where, quickly, go back to the first play here. The running back goes low, and you slide gap the protection, however you want to call it, okay? The running back goes low. That's quick protection by definition. What would quick protection tell you, common sense football people? Even if you never played, you should understand that. Get the ball out. That's got to happen. It's just, there are little things like that where a lot of folks don't seem to be on the same page. And to me, that's just not understanding all of your offense and the hows and the whys of the inner workings of what you're doing. Everybody can understand their individual assignment, but you go next level when everyone understands conceptually what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it. That's the part that I see missing a little bit from Alabama's offense. Now, did they get pushed around? Did they get bullied? Yes, they did. I mean, Texas, like I said, they took that game from Alabama. Alabama didn't give it away. Alabama didn't fumble it away. They did some things to help with that, but Texas took that game physically and took the fight to them. So this is a college football playoff team we're talking about in Texas. Now, I think Alabama has some forks in the road. I'm not going to be one of these guys that's walking out on that plank of talking about the end of Nick Saban or the end of the era or the Alabama football program's falling off a cliff. But as it regards to this individual season, Josh, they are facing multiple forks in the road right now. They have big decisions to make and need to be made fairly quickly of what did we think we were going to be, what are we, and what can we realistically be for the rest of this season. There's not a ton of time to figure that out. And then after you make those decisions, who is best suited to give us the best chance to go be those things? That might mean a quarterback change. That might mean some changes in the offensive line. That might mean some scheme changes. It might mean change at linebacker or defensive tackle. I don't know where those are all going to come from, but you've got to find first and foremost what your personality is. You mentioned the game plan. If you're going to ride with Jalen Milroe and you're not going to utilize an elite set of skills that he brings to the table more often, I have to bring that into question and wonder why you're not doing that. And if the quarterback competition was as close as it was, it can't be that you're worried about putting him in harm's way. It just can't, because you would feel like the next guy was pretty close. And even if there's a bit of a drop off, that's okay because he was right there with him. So some of that just, it doesn't equal up to me with how they called it and how it's looked. But I also don't think that I'm not printing their tombstone just yet. There's a lot of talent on that team. There's a lot of guys that want it. The talking's getting to be a tad much. Just go do it. I don't need to hear you talk about it anymore. Just go do it and see what you can put together over the next few weeks.
If you had to guess, would you how would you guess they handle quarterback against USF?
I think you'll see more than one. And I think because you at least have to begin preparation for the ifs now down the road, because the ifs may have been something in the back of your mind previously. They have to be forward facing in your brain. I don't know the names of all the cortexes, but they need to be up in this one right here.
Yeah.
This general facility is where you need to be thinking about, if things go haywire again, we have to go to a different option. And what will that option be? So I don't think it's going to be one series and then you see Buckner, or two series, you see Buckner. This is not a good football team they're playing. So when they get a decent, comfortable lead, 2-3 touchdowns, I think you'll absolutely see somebody else get some meaningful snaps.